is on the way. 18 minutes past 11. Featured artist this week is a lovely man called Mal Pope. Now, he's a recording artist, he's a songwriter, he's a radio presenter. And in fact, he used to do this exact show on our sister over the water, over the border station, Radio Wales. So he's used to working late nights. He's worked with people like Elton John. He's written songs for people like Cliff Richard. He also wrote and recorded the song, or the theme, to Fireman Sam. And we talked about that last time he was on the show. But anyway, this week, looking back at his career and playing songs old and new.
You know, it's funny because you have set me the task of choosing these tracks. And of course, it makes me look through my life because I started off very, very young. I was 13 years old when I had my first, recording contract. So it has been it's like a bit like a drowning man seeing his life passing in front of him. But it's been fun as well, I think.
Desert Island Discs with your own discs.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well,
and the tide's coming in.
Don't say that. Right. Well, let's go back first of all to the John Peel experience. Now, it's amazing when you think, because my lad is nearly 13. I can't believe what you were doing at that age.
Yeah, and I had a lot of encouragement, not from my parents, because my parents were very chapel. My dad's Sunday school superintendent and all that, and were always supportive, but not in a musical sense. But there was a lot of music in the house. My grandmother played the church organ, and she was brilliant. She was 4 foot tall, 5 foot wide, and she could play anything. From Bach to Beethoven, she could do it all. And so there was lots of music in the house. But I was lucky to have a couple of older brothers who were into the Simon and Garfunkel, Cat Stevens, Elton John type of material. And my big brother brought back a guitar from a holiday in Spain, and I nicked it really, and taught myself to play, that Bert Weedon tune in a day thing. Well, I did. I was avid, and when you've got a passion, no matter how old you are, it's like computer games now. You can't get kids off the computers. Well, I was like that with a guitar, and within 18 months, well, actually, yeah, by the time I was 9, I started writing songs. Now, it sounds daft now, and I must have been parrot fashion, looking at, listening to those, Bridge Over Troubled Water, all those sort of albums. But they were my versions of those songs, and it felt very natural to write music very early on.
And you ended up on the radio with John Peel doing a session. So how did that happen?
Well, the funny thing is, I suppose when you don't know what you're not supposed to do, you just do it. So I made quite a few tapes on my dad's Philips tape recorder in the front room, and it was a friend of my brother's who said, you should send these to John Peel on Radio 1. Now, it's absolute truth. I'd never heard of him. I'd never heard his programme because I was 12 years old at the time, and it was gone 10 o'clock. The only time we got up after 10 o'clock was to watch the football highlights on Sports Night with Coleman. So I found some sort of address, John Peel Radio 1, and I made a tape of these songs and sent it to him. Now, because it was a very old machine that my dad had, they had I think they were horrified, probably, a 12-year-old singer-songwriter from Wales sending in a tape. But they were intrigued as well. So they actually had to go to the bowels of the BBC and find a very old tape machine that they could play it on. And, and within a week or so, I had a letter back addressed to me, but asking me, my mum and dad my dad to give them a call to see whether I could record a session for the radio programme. And it is odd now, because it was a time of, it wasn't X Factor or Britain's Got Talent. In those days, it was Opportunity Knocks with Huey Green. So this happened all the time. This happened all the time. People would, send in a tape, or they'd be on the radio with it. So no one told me it didn't really happen very often. Yeah, and so we went to London. So they paid for 2 tickets, but my mother paid for 1 more, so both brothers could come with me. And we got to Paddington Station, got off, had a burger in Wimpy, and then went to meet John Peel and John Walters, who was his producer, who was another legendary character.
Yeah.
But they took me all around, so I remember meeting Jimmy Young outside Broadcasting House and getting his autograph, and then Johnny Walker, who still occasionally plays my records. I went to see him doing his programme, and then we went to this lovely studio in Egham. It's not there anymore because they've changed the BBC. I think it's Egham 1, I think it was, and recorded 5 or 6 songs for his radio programme, and they were amazing. They put the session out, but they also got in touch with everybody who they thought might be interested in recording a 13-year-old singer-songwriter from Wales, and a couple of people took the bait.
So, it's just amazing because you'd think at the time that you'd be so nervous you wouldn't know what to do with yourself. But I guess that because it was such a strange situation, you just did it. You had no inhibitions at that age, really. I suppose you're not that self-conscious.
No, I would sing in school. Yeah. I would sing at the drop of a hat. The lad who said I should send the tape to John Peel is a lad called Mike Nicholson, who was living in Bristol. Sadly, he's no longer with us. And he on a Friday and a Sunday night, we used to go to a youth club in his church, and then we'd go back to his house. And every night that I turned up there, they'd always make me sit on the piano stool and play my songs. So I was used to playing in public. And because I didn't really, if it had been Jimmy Young there, I know it sounds stupid, I probably would have been nervous. Because it was John Peel, and he looked so odd. He had dungarees on. He was a Liverpool football fan, and he had a little badge on his jump. I've got the pictures. Had long hair. He was just so lovely and odd. But he wasn't a superstar in my mind, so it wasn't nerve-wracking. He was just trying to sing my songs.
You hadn't heard of him, so he wasn't a threat. Yeah, I suppose. Now, the song that you've given us to play from that recording session is Dream Castle. And you know what? Listening to your voice, you're like a little baby Nick Drake. It's so beautiful, but incredibly accomplished as well. I mean, it's a lovely song.
Well, that's funny because I'm trying to think now. A dystopian Nick Drake. Someone once. There's a great description that somebody once wrote about. We included Nick Drake, and I'm so glad you've picked up on that. Yeah, I was. It's odd. I mean, I played every day. I played for hours every day. Drove my family nuts. If I wasn't playing the guitar, I'd be playing the piano. So. What's it? 10,000 hours. I'd probably done them by the time I was 13. So I was, but I haven't got any better. That's the thing. I peaked at 13, and my guitar playing hasn't got any better since.
Can you remember where you were when you heard that go out on the radio?
Yes, we were all allowed to stay up. We all gathered round a radio in a little house in Brynhyfryd in Swansea. We had the tape recorder, so we recorded it all. I don't know where that tape is now of the actual broadcast going out, and it was repeated. So it went out a couple of times, and then it went out on the World Service. But yeah, it was just. But the funny thing was, because my parents came from this chapel background, they didn't want it to be in the papers in case anybody found out. So it wasn't in the local paper, and I think it was in the Daily Express. So but before it was too late, because once Elton John got involved, there was no hiding the fact anymore that I was a pop star.
Leave your bad days with tomorrows, and finally you'll agree. Finally you'll agree with me. Dream, dream castle upon the hill of satin. Dream of a brave knight who will cry aloud, come on people, leave your sorrows, leave your bad days with tomorrows, and finally you'll agree. Finally you'll agree with me. Please don't send me away, let me come another day. Oh please, yes oh please. Dream, dream castle upon a hill of satin. Dream of a brave knight who will cry aloud, come on people, leave your sorrows, leave your bad days with tomorrows, and finally you'll agree.
Just lovely. Mal Pope and Dream Castle, a session recorded for John Peel all those years ago. And such a sweet voice. I love the way the guitar gets sort of quite meaty at times during that. It's really sweet at one point, then he goes for it. More from Mal Pope and his career through the week, and we'll work our way towards his brand new single as we get to Friday. This is The Late Show.
BBC Sounds. Hi, it's Cheryl, and I'm going